YouTube, welcome in. This is well, that's a great start to this fucking video. This is my portrayal of a 27-year-old prior Navy mechanic who recently left his wife, who currently lives alone, recently got into the dating scene, and also live streams in their free time, and is incredibly frustrated with their current emotions and is seeking for a outlet, and unfortunately finds themselves here of all places. Keep in mind, this is entirely an acting portrayal, and the names and places are based on a true story, but are in no way me. I'm really upset, and I'm sitting here frustrated, bothered, annoyed, and a million other synonyms for bothered. I feel a sense of weight behind my eyes, and I want to cry, but I'm fully unable to. As much as I desperately on a logical level, rational level, even physical level, need and want to cry and feel some fucking emotion. And unfortunately, I find myself falling into a state of apathetic numbness the moment that I start to process those feelings that I'm experiencing. And I will talk on the phone with a friend for an hour, walking on this wonderful path with these beautiful string lights at 8 p.m. And I'll spend the last 2 days enjoying time with a wonderful woman who I recently met, and just doing nothing, relaxing, coexisting together, yapping, making sweet, passionate love, eating good food, nothing but fabulous vibes. And yet, I find myself in a state of existential crisis afterwards. And she ends up texting me later in the day, and I legitimately tell her, I say, I was just having an existential crisis, but now you got me cheesing now that you've texted me, or something along those lines. And it was true. In that moment, I escaped from that existential moment, and now I'm back. Here I am, baby. And it's wild to me, the fluctuation in my emotional state that is entirely dependent upon external variables, and yet at the same time there's a baseline level to my emotions which is entirely independent of any external variables. I recently explained bipolar to one of my friends over a phone call, and I just talked for 30 minutes straight, ranting, explaining the nuances and details, and I find myself getting increasingly annoyed as I talked about it more, because I felt increasingly enamored at this idea of not feeling, thinking, or dealing with life these ways. And the idea of just living at a baseline zero and having the world shift around me, and having an ability to manage my emotions based upon my own internal thoughts and what happens around me, and the nuance between applying the two to find the balance that is your own emotional regulation. And to sit here in this sense of longing, pining, wanting, yearning for that sense of security, stability, And yet here I am feeling more happy, more consistently in a good mood than I ever have before in my entire life. And for some reason, I can still find myself after these periods of joy in this valley of despair. And there truly is no harbinger of death hovering over my shoulder. There is no demons in my closet waiting to come out at night. You know, there is no sleep paralysis demon hiding under my bed. Not anymore, at least. And the problem with all of that is that I am searching for a reason for what I'm experiencing. And the sad truth is I already know the reason. It's and I think that as much as I want to pin these emotional swings on my diagnosis, I have to take personal accountability and recognize the fact that I just came off of a very positive high, not high experience in terms of inebriation, but high in the sense of exuberance, joy. And now that has ended, entirely just due to life and circumstances, not in the sense of a permanent end, but in the sense of she went home. You know, I find myself coming off of that and falling so quickly, like I said earlier, into this valley of despair. And it's annoying to me that in life I find it hard to enjoy positive experiences without fearing the negatives that come after. And I find it entirely exhausting that when I'm experiencing these positive events, there's this little motherfucker in the back of my brain reminding me and exposing this fear that I feel in my bones of what is gonna happen when this ends. And it's ruined my ability to feel positive emotions. It's tarnished any amount of polish that has existed on whatever it is that I make my life. And I'm just so fucking tired of it. It makes me feel so cynical and angry. There is a tension that builds up, not so much as if it's a spring, but as if it is a tank that is slowly becoming overpressurized, where it can only hold, you know, let's just pretend 10 gallons of water, and it's rated for 100 psi. Lo and behold, you fill it up with those 10 gallons. But you're using a positive displacement reciprocating pump, which doesn't care about the overpressurization and continues to move fluid into it due to the nature of how it's designed. And you end up overpressurizing it and applying too much pressure to where the walls of that container burst. And it's not as though it is a small leak or a pinhole droplet that's able to escape. It is a rapid overpressurization, explosive in nature, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that moment to happen. And it's as if the world has decided that it is going to hover right at 99.9 pounds per square inch. And every single time that I'm about to exceed 100 or do exceed 100, somehow, in some magical way, the world just increases the pressure rating by 1 or 2 pounds. Never enough to where I have breathing room, never enough to where I feel as though there's more room to take on more, but just enough to where I don't burst. And I just want some fucking breathing room. I just want the ability to take on more shit. And it's funny because you can think about Pascal's law and how pressure is felt equally across the entire container. And when I get in these moods, it's so accurate. When I'm generally tense due to life circumstances, whether it's a stressful moment when I'm driving and, the car in front of me has a trailer with a lawnmower on, and then the lawnmower bag falls off the trailer, and then it gets underneath my car, and then there's a scraping, and I'm like, oh my god, and I have to pull over really quickly to remove this fucking lawnmower bag from underneath my car. And then the entire time, as I'm performing those actions, I have my ex-wife, at the time, wife, sitting next to me, who critically judges my driving all the time, to where not only am I dealing with the stress of this individual moment, but I'm also having this internal panic over the fact of how is she going to react? How is that going to affect the rest of the day? How is that going to affect the rest of my fucking life? And it sounds so silly, pointless, asinine, ridiculous. And yet here I am! Here I am! I am so incredibly lucky to be who I am today, to have the circumstances that I live in today. And even with all of that luck and all of these blessings, I'm not religious, I say blessings in terms of, I just like the word blessing, I think it sounds cool. Hey, who's calling me? Oh, I have to take this. Hey, girl. As I was saying, my friend called me excited to hear about my wonderful, wonderful 2 days that I've had hanging out with this wonderful woman that I met. And she was shocked. She was shocked that I told her I was ranting, that I was actually recording. And she said, "What? What are you ranting about?" And I said how miserable and depressed I am. And her response was, "What? You just had 2 days with..." And I just said, "Yeah, I know. I'll give you a call after I'm done recording." And that's what gets to me. That's what fucking gets to me. It's as though the human experience of being able to experience joy without experiencing an equally negative portion of existence afterwards is not possible. For some reason, the ability to go upwards and feel a positive emotion always leads to a sine wave action of falling way past zero, way past baseline. And the worst part of it all is that my baseline so often is shifted to where it's not at neutral, but my baseline is shifted to where it's at miserable. And so it takes so much work, so much effort, so much behavioral activation and self-awareness and meditation and effort on my part to just feel fucking normal, to feel at a average true human experience of baseline where I'm not depressed or frustrated or angry. But because my baseline has shifted to that lower state, the universal law for me in my existence of the crash has to happen after the rise, I'll rise up to that decent state of being. But now the crest of that sine wave is there. And so the crash is way lower than what it would be normally. And at the same time, to me, it feels as though it's a completely disproportionate amount of fall compared to the rise. And it's exhausting. It's so tiresome. And I'm constantly arresting my fall. And then I have to look people in the eye and tell them that I'm happy. And in that minutia of a moment, I can be. I can be. But outside of the individual moment, there is such a level of weight that is attached to these positive emotions that it's almost as though on a surface level they're positive emotions, but when you look at it as an entire iceberg, you know, the upper portion is the happiness, but in reality you flip it upside down and there's so much more below the surface that unfortunately is the sadness and misery that accompanies that happiness. And it seems so incredibly unfair, not only to me, but to the rest of the world, to the people who I know are going through so much more than me, who have suffered and been hurt and experienced ravages. Ravages? Is that a noun? I think it's more so of a verb, right? Someone ravages a village. I'm trying to think of a good word for that. I would say so many more ravaged days, we'll say. And I know comparison is the thief of joy and all of that nonsense. And while it's not nonsense, I understand that it is in fact reality. However, in terms of logical versus emotional, rational versus irrational, keep in mind your emotions aren't always irrational. Typically, in my opinion, emotions actually are very rational, and it makes sense, and you can identify why you're feeling what you're feeling, which in my perspective makes those feelings rational, or what some people might say is valid versus invalid. And for me, I consider so many of the feelings I have to be irrational. And yet, on an emotional level, I still feel them. And so while they are, from my opinion, irrational, to where I cannot identify a true reason behind them, or a purpose, or a external validating reason that explains why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, in those moments I'm left with nothing but a sense of loss and confusion. And even now, throughout explaining all of this to you, we could look at it as a whole and say, well, this is why you're experiencing these things. Which would then make these feelings rational. But in having these feelings become rational, it makes them feel so much more real. It makes them feel so much more painful, and also so much more permanent. It gives them more substance, more weight. And I could, in fact, live in a fantasy land and continue to not fully explore these thought patterns and go through the process of metacognition to truly think about the way that I'm thinking, and not only just feel my feelings, but also observe them, notice them, see them. And when they say that ignorance is bliss, they're talking about so many, and when I say they, I mean as a society, that's a general term or phrase, euphemism, that has been coined and used to mean several different things, in my opinion. But right now in this situation, I would say that ignorance is bliss applies to actively choosing to not notice or think about these negative feelings, and put up almost like a plastic barrier that, instead of being able to fully see through and have the transparency of, oh look, this is what I'm experiencing, it makes it more translucent, or not oblique. What's the word? Opaque. To where I can't even see it. And if I can't see it, I can't notice it. And if I can't notice it, then I can't feel it. And if I can't feel it, maybe I can focus on some other more positive feelings. And yet, the more opaque that screen gets, the more fear and anxiety builds up around what is behind this fucking curtain. What am I eventually gonna have to experience? And yet, no amount of horror behind this curtain is enough to make me fucking cry. I just want to cry. I just want to physiologically, maybe that's the right word, physically, allow my body to relieve stress in a way that is not a, I would say, conscious decision. Because yes, I can go work out, I can go for a run, I can do all the fucking things that you little shits are going to put in the comments about, this is how to improve your mental health. I can read all the books, millions and millions and millions of books, the best books, the most wonderful books. I've read all the books. Here I am throwing humor into the conversation to distract from the actual weight of what we're talking about, which is a classic method for me. And here I am. You could see it in my eyes, maybe, if the camera quality is good enough, that I was starting to feel more of those emotions, and yet so quickly they're gone. Whether it be to a quick joke or a new sensation where I get distracted by how cold I am, or think of grounding exercises, right? Feel the things that you're touching, feel the things that you're hearing. Notice any leftover passive tastes in your mouth potentially. What do you smell? Right? Focus on something that you see. I mean, look at Banana Duck right there, right? Super nice guy. He's got some really, really nice skin. A beautiful orange nose. His eyes could use some work, right? Unfortunately, he has what I would like to call posterior tilt or anterior tilt in his pelvis, which is causing him back issues. So you can see he's got a really bad arc in his back. Poor guy. I probably use those medical terms completely wrong, so don't yell at me. And all of that to say, it is to pull you out of your thoughts in that moment. It's to withdraw you from the situation, reset your nervous system, give you a moment to collect yourself, breathe, and then reapproach those thoughts and feelings from a more healthy, constructive mindset. And I find myself, when these tools get used subconsciously or consciously, there is a level of cynicism that is now applied to them in which I don't want to remove myself from that moment. I want to stay in, marinate in, sink in, and be consumed by these negative feelings of pain, agony, misery. And yet I can't. I can't. You could lock me in a vacuum sealed Ziploc bag, baby, covered in sauce with all the right seasonings, everything needed to make me cry, you know? Even a little Chemical X thrown in there. Call me Powerpuff Boy. And it won't be enough. And the more that I put in conscious effort to overcome this lack of ability to truly cry, the more jaded I become at even trying because of failure after failure after failure after failure. And I am so burnt, crispy. I don't describe my anger as an outburst. I don't describe it as loud or angry, or anger is angry. That's silly. Or that emotional. My anger is much more of a smolder. It's much more of, as you can see behind me, right, ashes on a fireplace. There's a potential energy there that has been used up, but at the same time is remaining, to where you wonder if it's got anything else. You wonder if there's more there. And you're also able to notice the exhaustion, right? It has been used. It has put out itself as a fire. It has done its job, quote unquote. And yet there are still those embers, that flame, that heat. And I am so angry all the time. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. That was my acting audition for being a disgruntled 27-year-old adult male. Like, subscribe, follow for more. I'll catch you on Twitch, where I live stream video games, or on my Instagram at Cheaper Than Therapy, 2 R's in cheaper, where I post other rants and also memes and jokes. My Twitch handle is Hacksar Plays. And if you want me to be an actor or a model or anything else, or if you're single and live in the Charleston area, hey, yeah, hi. Yeah. And notice how this entire thing has been wrapped up in this sense of humor of it being an act, right? It adds a layer of disconnection from the actual existence. And that level of disconnection is something I'm finding myself having to deal with more and more and more, where I'm no longer living my life as myself. I'm living my life as a fucking ghost, just watching myself live. I'm no longer Jordan. I'm no longer me. I'm this phantom watching myself live my life, experience these things. And I want to live my own life, feel my own feelings, exist in my own existence. And yet, the more that I try to analyze, think about, feel through, go through, and honestly cherish these feelings, whatever they are, because of how little time we have as humans on this earth. It's mind-blowing when you think about the range of not only emotion, but thought and connection that you can feel with other people or nature or the world, or even a piece of art or infrastructure. The way how music can just speak to your soul. There's so many facets of existence that we take for granted. And I know for a fact there are thousands upon thousands that I am taking for granted. And yet none of that matters when I feel like this. There is so much potential to what can exist in this world, and yet I'm trapped experiencing what exists in this world. And I'm so tired of what is in my fucking skull. And I wish I could get out of it.